Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul, hopefully having an amazing day. There is some very concerning news potentially up ahead with GPU shortages threatening to grab the market once again, which is obviously very concerning for gamers. While these reports early on do seem to be affecting Nvidia GPUs exclusively, it obviously will most likely have a knock-on effect to Radeon cards as well, so we're going to get into that in just a moment. And then the final pricing, allegedly, of the RTX 40 Super Series, as well as the final performance figures, have leaked out. So we're going to get into all of that plus more after this quick message from the video's sponsor. If you're running a copy of Windows 10 which isn't activated, of course, not only do you have to worry about the missing customization options, but there's also that annoying Windows desktop watermark reminding you to activate. Today's video is sponsored by WhoKeys.com, and they have an excellent price on Windows 10 Professional as well as Home keys. Yeah, and they also of course sell games. I've bought a few Windows 10 keys with my own personal account to test everything was legit and worked in preparation for this sponsored video. You can pick up one of their keys for 25% off using the coupon code RGT in the checkout. There's links to their website in the video description. Also, if you're building a few systems, there's bundles available too. Again, you can check out WhoKeys.com and use the coupon code RGT for 25% off the listed Windows 10 key prices. Of course, AI was certainly the buzzword over the past 18 or so months, and tons of startups have essentially just been created, grabbed tons of investor capital with the purpose, of course, of buying Nvidia or other AI-focused products, and then, well, that is pretty much in some cases the entire purpose of the startup, it seems. Honestly, there are shades of South Park's Underpants Gnomes episode, if you recall that. But this has led, of course, to Nvidia as well as other companies really putting a focus on AI products. I'm even hearing that Radeon technology groups and AMD, of course, are putting a lot more capital now into the research and development of graphics cards because of AI. And, well, it's going to be very interesting because even the next versions of Windows, of course, are going to be pushing things like NPU requirements, and it's just going to be a very interesting transitional period in the market. But for gamers anyway, there are some very interesting reports that are floating around online, and they have been kind of squeezed together into an article on WCCF Tech. I will, of course, leave a link in the video description. I'll also give my thoughts on this because I was speaking to a couple of sources, but first of all, let's get to the article. So, mydrivers.com have been speaking to sources in Taiwan, and they claim that, yes, lower supplies are already impacting the market, and this has been happening through Q4 2023. Now, they don't state which SKUs, but it does seem that it's impacting a plethora of RTX 40 graphics cards, and this is certainly impacting the Chinese markets. Now, obviously, the RTX 4090D is basically a cut-down RTX 4090. We've discussed it a couple of times previously, but if memory serves, the MSRP for this in the Chinese region seems to be basically the same price as the RTX 4090 vanilla, and given they are basically getting a cut-down version of a card, well, that's not great. However, even other regions, in other words, not Asia, are also being impacted by this, and there seems to be some issues across Amazon in different regions as well, United States, Europe, etc., etc., etc. Now, so far, this is not as bad as we saw with the mining situation, of course, but I decided to reach out to a couple of sources, basically citing this article and asking more information. And a couple of people got back to me. So one of them essentially told me that this is not new in terms of what AIBs were told. So Q3, late Q3 actually to be precise, AIBs were basically told that allotment for GPUs is going to start to go down. So in that respect, business as usual there. But what is not known at this point is what's going to happen with the impact for the Super launch. Now, again, obviously Super is going to start launching throughout January. As we all know, Nvidia have everything confirmed at this point that they're going to be announcing that at CES event. However, allotment to AIBs, at least in this report, wasn't stated. Now, hopefully, that information will become more self-evident pretty soon, and hopefully I'll be able to leak it to you guys. But at this point anyway, we do not know whether this is going to impact the pricing. Now, if you're a what's the word I'm looking for? A slightly suspicious individual, because we're going to get into pricing in a moment. You could say, well, gee whiz, the RTX 40 Super Series is actually reasonable pricing, but if there are shortages in the market, obviously that pushes the MSRP up, and you could be a little... you could be a bit suspicious and skeptical and say, well, that could be a good way for Nvidia to kind of say, well, you know what, guys, we did our best to launch these cards at a lower price. It's not our fault that, you know, there's just shortages in the market, because obviously we can only make a certain amount of cards. I don't necessarily know if I would believe that, but it's going to be very interesting to see what actually happens. Again, I will try to get you guys more information concerning that as soon as possible, but what I will now move on to is the RTX 40 Super Series of cards. So obviously there are 3 SKUs which are going to be launched, and Mega Size GPU, Zed Wang on Twitter, has a very good track record typically. And AIBs, at least as of the time I'm recording this, from maybe like 24 hours ago, I was asking a source about this pricing actually. They have not been briefed on this, to my knowledge, at least the AIBs that my source has access to. So this pricing is probably from internal Nvidia information. Now that can change literally the last second. However, these prices are very close to prices that I've mentioned a few times on the channel. We'll move up the stack. So the 4070 Super is going to cost, I'm just going to round up the prices for everyone's sanity, $600, $800 for the 4070 Ti Super, and then finally $1,000 for the 4080 Super. Now, I think mentioned a couple of times in videos that the 4070 Ti Super I was hearing was going to be $749 to $799. So I'm a little disappointed it's not on the slightly lower side. These prices are not bad. So Nvidia have obviously, you know, made the right cuts and tweaks to their GPUs, and according to Mega Size, the 4070 Ti Super is about on par with the 4080. The 4070 Super is about on par with the 4070 Ti. So honestly, that isn't too bad. Now, if memory serves, the 4080 vanilla card was, I think, $1,200 on launch. So this is actually quite a price cut if you look at it that way. And obviously that also means that the 4080 Super is also a small price cut as well. You're looking at around $200. So this is pretty much what I was saying in several videos, that we're looking at $100 to $200 price cut essentially across the SKUs versus their predecessors. So it's not bad. It's going to be very interesting to see, of course, just how all of this ends up and what AMD are going to do as well. Again, this is basically, obviously, the exact same architecture. There are no major changes across, you know, anything really. It's just essentially the same thing. You can pretty much just think of these as getting a slightly better GPU for the same amount of money. I would actually make a really, really, really strong argument that the 4080 was always overpriced for the performance versus the 4090. I mean, honestly, the 4090 is crazily expensive. However, the 4090 was also insanely fast with a crap ton of RAM. And I do think that the SKU segmentation for the 40 series is kind of weird. Although you could also make that exact same argument the 30 series. I mean, the 30 series was just really bizarre. As I'm sure most of you would agree, especially with the different variants of RAM. Like you had obviously the 3080 with, I think it was 10 and 12 gigs, and then you had the 3080 Ti with 12, and then obviously you had the 3090, which was, well, Nvidia was not really pushing it as a gaming card, but they kind of were. It's a whole thing. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to be very interested to see what Nvidia actually finally announce with these GPUs. And obviously, at the end of the day, even if these are the MSRPs, if we do end up with shortages, that's just going to suck ass anyway. The good news is that Intel are on track, as I've said several times now, with Battle Mage. It's just how performant it is and how their drivers actually, well, you know, are in the real world. with the first generation of Arc, with the Alchemist series, it wasn't exactly great at launch, but Intel's driver team have done a lot of work now to optimize. So it's going to be very interesting, honestly, to see how their driver package for my brain's gone blank. There we go. Battle Mage is going to be. But with that said, guys, apologies for not being on camera for this one. Unfortunately, I need to run out and do some chores because, well, it's Sunday morning and it's, chore day for me. So I just wanted to put this out because I just wanted to talk to you guys about the shortages, because I've already seen a couple of people actually contacting me. One person via email, a couple of people via Twitter, DM, and just a little concerned about this with the 40 Super Series. Like, do I just kind of wait? What do I do? So yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a bit of clarification. With that said, I'm rabbiting on way too much, so take care of yourselves. Bye for now.